Why don't we start with that, Marnus? The kind of roller coaster you had in the last 2 or 3 games there in the field. Can you kind of talk us through keeping your composure after the one on the long-on fence?
Yeah, I mean, probably take it to that one. It was a game that you always felt like we were ahead of the game until I looked up. I reckon it was about, they needed 41, I reckon, off 26. And I was like, geez, that's gettable. That's gettable. And that was probably the moment I was like, it's just going to be tight here. And then, obviously, I think probably the next over, actually, is probably where I caught that one and then stepped on the rope. He just sucked me in. I thought he absolutely got none of it. And the ball at altitude probably just travels a little bit more and just carried me over the fence. And as soon as it happened, I just knew. But it was nice to be able to contribute after that and find a way to help the team secure the win.
That last over, when those two were sort of smashed out at you, talk us through those two. The first one you cut to 2, and the second one where you did the run out.
I think as he hit it, I just running as hard as you can, and it was. I actually try to make sure I got my body behind the ball a little bit more instead of trying to usually probably tap it softly. I just try to make sure you get it in because there was always going to be 2. Because they weren't going to run 3 because Nisham had to stay on strike. So, I was able to stop that too. And then with the run out, it actually wasn't a great throw. But what happened is I picked it up and I knew I just needed to get the ball in. And I looked up and Josh Inglis wasn't at the stumps yet. So I threw it exactly where I saw Josh Inglis, and then it was about 2 metres from the stumps. But, lucky we got that run out, and then obviously made it very difficult there, needing 6 off the last with a new batter. But yeah, like I said, I pride myself on my fielding, so I was disappointed, obviously, when I didn't take that catch on the boundary to get Bolt. But you move on, and lucky enough, I was able to contribute after that.
Has there been much emphasis put on the fielding? Because the first 2 matches, it was pretty sloppy, but since then it's been good, and you've been winning. Sorry,
not anything specific. I mean, everyone's individually working on their fielding with Bora and making sure that they're ready for each match. I think for me, I'm always ready. I think fielding's just an attitude. I'm going to give 100%. You're going to drop catches occasionally, you're going to miss field occasionally, but it's about being engaged every ball and making sure you understand your role in the position you're in. Knowing when you need to squeeze and stop the 2. All those sorts of small things where I think maybe the first 2 games we were a bit standoffish. We were, didn't really engage in every ball. We were sort of just like, it's just going to happen. But yeah, I think we've really amended that the last few games and fielded quite well.
Do you think fielding is sort of a barometer of how switched on a team is?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just how engaged you are in the field, and I think, making sure fielders are in the right position, making sure you're running the extra metres if you need to be in a certain spot. I think you would have seen towards the end there we had, Maxi at long off, me at cow, and, Hetty was at deep backward. We always made sure that, we had the right fielders in the right positions. I was at mid-off, there at the back end. Maxi was in a catching position, Smudge was in a catching position, Davey was in a catching position. So just making sure those small things you're getting right towards the back end of a game especially.
Your batting, the stuff you talked about, the kind of feedback you got from selectors as to why you got left out of the one-day squad in the first place and the kind of changes you made on the back of that. How have you gone with that in this tournament? Do you feel like that's had a material effect on how you played?
I mean, this tournament, what World Cup provides is just a lot of different scenarios. You're not playing the same opposition. The wickets are changing constantly. The opposition are changing constantly. And you're just thrown up with a few more different conditions, especially with the dew. We saw in Lucknow, we played on almost 2 different wickets against South Africa. So I think it looks a little bit different, but I feel like I'm playing well. I feel like the situations that I've come across, I've navigated well, and that looks a little bit different because getting 40 off 70 against Sri Lanka. If you take that in isolation without the situation of the game, you're like, oh, that's really slow. But that's just what we needed. We needed to make sure we get ourselves on the board, get into a good position, and then obviously we got the net run rate as well when Maxi and Stoin came out and smacked him at the end. So from me personally, I feel like I'm batting well. One-day cricket, you're not going to, especially in the middle order, you're not going to be able to score runs every time. Disappointed with the last game. I think I could have done a little bit more there, but at the end of the day, we got a good start, and I was trying to keep the momentum going, and didn't come off.
Yeah, and with Trav back, and you mentioned you weren't that happy with how you went last game. Like, you're probably going to be in more of those situations, right? If you stay in the team, you're going to be at 5, or even get pushed down further if it's a good start, like it did against I can't remember one of the games where you got pushed down to 7. Like, how do you kind of adjust your game for that?
I think obviously to get pushed down that far, it has to be an exceptional start. And even the other day, we had an exceptional start, but we still lost a wicket in the 23rd over. We were just on heaps of runs. But even then, you still need to navigate those next 17 overs or 15 overs well. And I think that's where myself, Steve, that's where I would like to think that's my area of expertise, or the area that I'm in the team for, is navigating those at around 6.5, 7 runs and over. And if you get off to a good start, as we saw against the Netherlands, you can come out and you can put the opposition under pressure with those 4 fielders out. There's always a boundary option, with reverse, laps, sweeps, over mid-off to the off-spinner if they have mid-off up. So there's heaps of opportunity. So it's just about being able to play the different scenarios at the different times of the game. And that's what I sort of value, right? That's where I think I can add a lot of value to this team.
With Trav back and then Stoin likely available, do you think you will hold your spot?
I hope so. I'm not a selector, but I think over the last 13 games I've added a lot of value to the team, especially in the middle overs. I think we know what's important in this country is how you play the middle overs, and I think I can add a lot of value. So I hope so, but that's not my job. It's someone else's job. So I'll just keep making sure if I get an opportunity, I keep scoring runs.
So do you feel like you've been living on the edge a bit? Like you sort of got your original opportunity with injury, and then I suppose this is the first game when you replaced, or sort of Greeny got left out and you stayed in, that there hasn't been a situation where there was sort of an injury sort of allowing you an opportunity, but now Stoin is back. Do you feel like, well, what happens here?
Once again, that's for the selectors to weigh up the value of having.
Does it feel like living on the edge? Do you feel like you're always playing for your spot, that it's a fluid situation?
Maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, you need to keep scoring runs, right?
Yeah.
You need to keep scoring runs. You need to keep winning your team games, and I've got to keep trying to do that. Like you said, you got to weigh up. The selectors have to weigh up, the value for them if they're the extra batter or the all-rounder. Once again, and that's not my job. We haven't seen the conditions yet, so we're not sure what that looks like. But I know if I'm picked, I'm the right person for that role in the middle order.
And how do you both feel about running into Johnny Bairstow again after the Ashes and the subsequent chatter that's been going on?
I couldn't care less who we're playing. We really just want to beat England. I can't imagine anything's going to come up with Johnny. That's dead and buried. Something that we don't really talk about. We don't discuss. I don't think anyone's view or thoughts have changed on the decision, on what happened, and we just move on.
Is it hard to ignore? Like, it just seems to keep coming up. It's come up again 2 weeks or the last week or so from a book. It's come up again with Broad talking about it on a podcast. It just seems to bubble along.
I think it's just topical. It's a good conversation to stir the pot, and the media love it. The media love stirring the pot about that. And as players, it's happened. I think everyone's moved on, and it keeps coming up because more people outside of the game are talking about it. Yeah, I know Johnny came out and spoke about it a few months ago, but it's the same thing. We did pre-record stuff, and then it comes out 2 months later, so it feels like it's topical again now, but that conversation was had months and months ago.
What do you make of baseball getting included in the dictionary? I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't. What was it? What happened?
Like Collins' dictionary have added baseball into there. So when you go to the dictionary, you'll see baseball in there. Is that surprising?
Oh man, that is garbage. That's seriously, I don't know what that is, honestly. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's just
Big dictionary, though.
Looking on from the outside, what's your perspective on England's World Cup? Has it come as a shock to you, as it seems to most people back home?
I mean, it's obviously always a shock when a team like that's 6-1. Regardless of how they're playing, 6-1 for a high quality lineup, being 10th in the World Cup. Yeah, absolutely, it's a shock. I mean, what this World Cup has shown is the subcontinent brings all the teams very close together. Teams like Afghanistan, teams like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all these teams, and us and all teams, it's just close because everyone's got decent spinners in the subcontinent. They're obviously exposed to these conditions more often. So that's what's made it so entertaining because, likes of the Netherlands have won 2, Afghanistan have won 3, Pakistan 3. So, it's so tight. And it makes for great viewing because every game, every night is a great fixture and it's a great game to watch. But yeah, obviously England just been horribly out of form. I don't really think there's much else. But one thing that does mean is they're dangerous. They're dangerous. So if there's ever a team that's dangerous when they're down and out, it's England. And hopefully, we can just keep playing well like we have and more focusing on our own game. Let's not get sucked into how they're performing. They're a good team. They're good individual players, and we need to be at our best.
I know you know Matthew Mott from back home and from Glamorgan. He's been bearing a lot of stick in the press over the past few weeks. Is that a surprise given his record in the job so far? Been at one T20 World Cup and won it.
I mean, you're not surprised when your team's 6-1 in a World Cup. Someone's, coach, captain, the team's going to be copping slack. So I don't think there's any surprise in the fact that there's a bit of heat on him. But I don't think that changes the fact that he's a good coach and he's done well with England's white ball team over the last few years. But at the end of the day, it's just what happens. I'm sure we'd be in the exact same scenario if we were them. So.
Did you have any idea about the Champions Trophy rules, the qualification for the tournament, before it got sort of emerged?
I mean, I actually asked if the other day, I thought it may be the next World Cup. So I thought it would be like the top 8 qualify for the next World Cup and then the bottom 2 have to re-qualify in that qualifying game. But that wasn't the case. I think I've just heard that the ICC Champions Trophy is what it is. So yeah, I mean, once again, at least there's motivation for England, that they need to make sure that they're playing well the last 3 games.
And just back on your form, on this tour, there have been a couple of matches like Rajkot against India and then Delhi against the Dutch, where you've been striking at over 120. That power game, is that something you've been working on specifically to get back in this team, or has it just come naturally?
No, it's definitely been a refocus. It's been something that I've sort of gone, okay, I really need to address starting my innings and being really positive, taking the game on, but just trusting my own game and doing it in my own way. Everyone does it in their own way. I'm not Mitch Marsh, but that doesn't mean I can't strike at 130, 140 in my own manner. And I think that's what I've really taken on board and making sure that I just go out there and trust my shots and my game against spin and then against pace. And I've done that well over the last 13 games. And for me, just being able to... And then the second thing is just continuing to get better at reading those situations when I need to play what certain role. I think that's where I really want to make sure I keep improving, making sure that when Glenn Maxwell's out there, probably don't take many risks. He'll take enough for both of us. So I think that's a good example of just me continuing to grow and get better, especially when I'm in those sort of middle to later stages. Just keep navigating those scenarios better. Obviously, I haven't been exposed to those as much. Batting at 4, that doesn't really... It's a rarity that you sort of get exposed as a new batter in those scenarios. But like I said, there's always room for improvement, and that's where I've got to keep making better decisions.
Is it helpful for you guys to have had this nice break in the middle of the tournament? Obviously, a couple of days on the golf course, and maybe just change the tempo of the tournament rather than travel play.
I don't know. Yes and no. Yes and no. I think yes, it's nice to sort of down tools a little bit. Get on the golf course, enjoy. But it's also, when you're staring down the barrel of 120 days in India for a year, it's like the travel play. You're getting a nice rhythm. Rest, travel, rest, train, play. You get into that sort of rhythm of playing, and obviously we've been away for a long time this year with the Ashes, 2 trips to India. So yes and no. I think it is good. It's good for a break. Boys sort of down tools, relax a little bit, and then sort of get back into it today.
Can you talk us through the footbed?
The Crocs. It's a what is it? It's just it's a comfy India wear. You don't leave the hotel much, so you need a little hotel number, and I think most of the boys are running these at the moment. The off-road Crocs.
Are they car tyres that have been?
Yeah, it looks a bit like that, doesn't it?